expected to see again were suddenly not there. They had fallen into the startup summer to gap semester sinkhole. This trend, convincing tech interns to drop out and build something more important, more impressive than school, is a trend, not some holy grail, especially for us at Yale. And we are at Yale, so let's not pretend that we aren't. And if you will pretend, I dare you to drop out tomorrow, because you aren't for Yale. We at the CP love to weep for sophomores who flock to Goldman, McKinsey, before they even form a sense of self. But how are these startup chasers who uproot their path to graduation to supposedly change the world at age 20 any better? Before college, I also worked at a tiny startup founded by a Yale and Stanford PhD dropout, with a vision to revolutionize the food industry with Gen AI. On paper, I was shaping the brand identity, drafting digital ethics standards at a time DALL-E just launched and ChatGPT didn't even exist. Was I intellectually stimulated? Yes, but probably less than when I wrote my first DS paper. I was actually quite restless. Like I was rolling around in a rich kid's playground with no real prospect of implementing these lavish company expenses. This isn't the early 2000s anymore. The startup industry hacked the barriers to entry that a healthy, competitive industry should maintain. For startups, this should be the ridiculously high risk level that hedges against recklessness. Too many VCs coddle underdeveloped 20-somethings with inflated conceptions of themselves. The Sam Bankman-Fried and the Elizabeth default to fraud to cover up how immature and ignorant they let themselves become. The most insidious pursuit is cosplaying intellectualism for prestige, or even worse, intellectual experimentation with no regards to its real consequences. So if anything, the startup industry is above it. College exists to combat this disease. When I got into Yale, my uncle's gift for me was a PDF file of an essay by German philosopher Karl Jaspers, The Idea of the University. Even in 1923, Jaspers called the intellectual elite the Geistesaristokratie to fight against the vocational trap in higher education. For Jaspers, truth is absolute, and a solemn stewardship of truth needs extended personal wrestling with it. In his words, knowledge is cogent. It is right as it stands, but conviction is the very opposite, because science unmasks illusions with which I would like to make life more bearable. Science disperses half-truths which serve to hide realities that I am unable to face. It breaks up the premature constructs which uncritical thinking sets in the place of tireless research. Experiencing my genuine ignorance, I grow aware. Only after we have committed ourselves to the quest for knowledge can we learn the source and meaning of knowledge. I recently personally experienced this genuine ignorance. I was born here in the States, but I grew up in South Korea, and I worked short-term in Seoul this summer. My mentor would ask me all kinds of things about what Yale students do, including what kinds of jobs we seek. When I found him on LinkedIn, it was actually my first time crying looking at someone's LinkedIn profile. He was a recent graduate of Seoul's best university, and he was following all the companies we at Yale made fun of. Goldman, JP, you name it. For him, and actually for most of the world, such opportunities are not uncomfortable inside jokes or a source of cognitive dissonance. For 20 years, I assumed I was naturally destined for more because my American education taught me to challenge the status quo and dream of world-changing ambitions. I am just one person with these immense opportunities to be here, to be a citizen. Yale and many other similar schools, companies, should be sources of American pride. Institutions built on systems carefully crafted over centuries by toiling, ambitious individuals, striving whole life to study and work here, to push his daughter to find a life here. Because of him and others before him, not because of me or my superiority complex. I can be here reading about Kierkegaard. Ronald Reagan republished his essay in 1961. He now celebrates academic freedom. The university not only tolerates but demands that persons who oppose its aims be admitted to it. In what world outside the university does this hold true, especially in Jasper's post-Nazi Germany entering the Cold War? But his original Geiste Aristokratie will also be the ones to defend these institutions. Because who else will wrestle with uncertainty, insecurity, to then find humility and recognize that truth is a lifelong, rigorous pursuit, and that its integrity must be defended. Such breaking down of hubris, such growing burden has been my Yale journey so far.